So thanks, Cam, for this second opportunity to be at Testing Talks. I absolutely love being here and sharing my experiences with the community and at the same time learning a lot from you as well. Today, I'm going to speak with you about how can you power up your automation using AI. Anyone who's not heard of AI? Difficult, I'm guessing. Anyone who's used any AI tool technology? Okay. Awesome. You're going to be participating in this conversation now more than others. Okay. A little bit about myself. I work with Applitools. I came from India. Been part of the testing space since more than 20 years. Rather, I was in the testing space for a very short time, maybe just about a year or so. And then because of my role, which I had to take as a customer support engineer, my perspective of testing changed, and I stopped being a tester. I started thinking about it as quality. And that's a very big difference. I don't test, I help build quality. And whatever role I can play in that, I do that. Along with that, I do whatever open source contribution that I can, small parts of Selenium, APM, and other open source frameworks or tools related to testing. That's what I do. I would love to connect with you on Twitter, LinkedIn, take it forward. I don't know if Twitter is still called Twitter or it's X anymore. It's difficult to keep track, but doesn't matter. But we are here to talk about AI and how it can help us get better in automation. First of all, is this really a hype? What do you think? I heard some yeses as well. Not really, so that's a maybe. Anyone saying no? A few people know, right? And it's good to be on either side of the spectrum because there's no one clear answer. Of course, there's the right answer, but there's no one clear answer. The Gartner report says that there are a lot of different things happening with respect to AI, and they've got a very interesting way of portraying this. It's an innovation trigger, expectations, disillusionment, enlightenment, and plateau of productivity. These are the different stages that they are calling it. Now, if you look at, focus on where we are right now, that is between the maybe, no, maybe, yes category. That's where we are. And why I picked this area? Because these are things that we are actually seeing in reality. We have access to these technologies or these advancements in the field. Whether it is related to chatbots, they've become really good, right? It's difficult to know if you're speaking to a bot or to a real person. Computer vision, autonomous vehicles, semantic search, these are all getting closer for us to be able to make an impact and start using these technologies. That means this is not just hype, right? I used to be on the no side. I'm more on the yes side now, but somewhere still in between. I've got one foot in the door, but not committed completely in that. So this is a reality. You cannot escape it. The suggestion from my side is embrace it, evolve with that. Now, with that in mind, hope it gives some perspective of how industries are tracking the technologies. But let's start focusing on aspects related to us, related to testing, related to quality, and how can AI help or not in these aspects. Has anyone heard of ChatGPT? Great answers. Okay, everyone else, you can go have a coffee, collect some more swag. Okay, so how has ChatGPT helped you so far? Have you used it?
Yes.
How have you used it? What have you done with that?
Write test scripts.
Write test scripts, okay. What else? Yeah?
Use it instead of Stack Overflow to learn more about coding.
Learn more about coding, yes? Yes?
The company I'm using it, the company I work for is using it for automated marking of assignments. So I'll be
Automated marking of assignments. Okay, interesting. Marking of assignments. Any other use cases? Replace Google, okay. Is it really replace Google or replace Stack Overflow? Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's a combination, right? Certain things go hand in hand. Okay. Any other interesting use cases you've tried it? Yes?
We also use that to have the structured user stories for the our business.
Structured user stories, you said? Okay. Interesting use case. Good. Anything else? Debugging the code. Okay. Anyone used it to write poems? We're talking testing, come on. Poems, songs, limericks, yeah? So many interesting use cases, right? But sorry for the digression. We'll focus on the testing use cases. Okay. So what we are going to do is see how different AI tools, will focus starting off with ChatGPT, can help in different aspects of what we do in testing. Now, this is a simplified version of the testing life cycle, right? There's an aspect of strategy, there's an aspect of design, there's automation and execution. And each of these aspects are going to have different things that we need to look at. Correct? Anything obvious that is missing? What we do from a testing or quality space? Sort of covers it?
Bare minimums, yes, not every aspect.
Of course, it cannot be everything, right? But in general, I think you get everything over here, right? All different aspects. Yeah, you have something?
Yeah, test execution, you put test execution reporting together. It's not always the case that they're the same.
It's not. It's not. And for lack of a better designing skill in myself, I clubbed it together. Okay, that's my limitation, not the. But you're right. No, these are different aspects, and reporting could be for automation and non-automated as well. But what I'm going to focus on over here is how we can leverage ChatGPT for creating reports, intelligent reports out of it. Okay. So now this is where I hope you all are not streaming anything on your devices on the Wi-Fi, because I'm going to need Wi-Fi for the demo. Okay. Strategy. What does strategy really mean? Let's say if you have to test the Testing Talks community portal, website, LinkedIn, whatever else that might come in, right? Whatever Cam and team does beautifully. How are you going to test that? Okay? You need a thought process. You need a strategy for that, right? So has anyone used ChatGPT for creating a strategy? Yes? No?
Yes.
Yeah?
I tried it, but not actually used it.
Okay.
But yes,
Did you just try to see the output, or you also looked at the results?
the output.
How valuable was the output?
To say that, yeah, ChatGPT can do it.
Okay. But is it usable? Is it usable?
Bookish, too bookish.
Too bookish, right? And that is what I also found out. So I'm taking amazon.com.au website. I'm asking ChatGPT, oh, this screen is not shared. Sorry. That's surprising. I was wondering what is going on. Maybe what I should do is I'll just stop the slide and do it in this fashion. Okay? So I asked ChatGPT a question right now. Create a test strategy for amazon.com.au. And as you said correctly, it's in a way quite bookish, but I think this is a great start, right? Now, I might not be testing amazon.com because it's a massive product. If I have to work on that, I'll be testing some specific functionality or a new feature that they are trying to roll out. That's what I would be testing if I was within Amazon, right? I wouldn't have a general strategy, but this gives me a good starting point. Now, why is this even more helpful? I'm not working with Amazon, but I might be working for another e-commerce company which is similar in thought process, in principle, to what Amazon is trying to do. And I don't have those standard templates or the massive set of documentation, templates, whatever else might be required to get started quickly. So I could take an example from Amazon and use that as a reference to build something that is more applicable to myself, right? To my project. Now, based on this, I think this covers all different aspects of the strategy. And if you go through this, it is going to have various different things. The things that I found very interesting over here was, let's see, where did it go? There's compatibility, there's localization and internationalization. Surprisingly, when I ran this yesterday, I also got some other ideas over here with respect to security and privacy. Well, there is security over here, but that was more in terms of the data side of it. Why is that relevant? Because in Australia, GDPR is very important part of the compliance. And it showed that to me. Now I'm wondering why it did not show that right now. And that is an aspect that we need to be aware of when using tools, especially like this, which is out in the open. Things will keep changing. You cannot expect to get the same answer every time. It's constantly learning and evolving as well. But this can be a great start to get started and take the next step. You take it, you tweak it in your own context, and you move on to the next thing. Now, what could be the next thing is I need to know about the risks as well, right? I have a strategy. Have I covered risk correctly? Because that's what quality or testing is about, making sure you understand the potential risk and you mitigate it as well. Now, when you ask it about the risks, it is giving you many different aspects related to the domain that I am asking, and it is telling me all that information as well. This is similar example to what I would think of. Anyone use the candy bar telephone, the old cell phones, or the dial-up type phones? How many phone numbers did you remember at that point in time? How many do you remember right now? Exactly. I have a second SIM for when I'm traveling for data, and I don't remember that phone number at all. I have to look it up in my phone. Okay, what was that number? Because technology has evolved. Does it mean I have become dumber? Well, don't answer that. But technology has evolved, and I've learned to use technology to get better access to the information that I need. That means I'm able to do something more differently because I have more time. So this becomes a great way to evolve. You don't have to remember all aspects of what you're doing in testing, strategy, have I covered everything or not. You can leverage tools to get quick insights. Don't think of it as answers. That is the main thing. Have that skepticism, have the innate quality of a tester of not trusting in you, to not trust what is given as an output. Use that, apply your brain, and then see what better can you do of that. Okay? So from a risk perspective, I thought this was great. And again, from a risk as well over here, I don't really see data come up over here, which is surprising. Okay? But now, just knowing the risks is not enough. You also need to know, how do I mitigate the risks? One thing is about knowing a problem. Just you speak about problems, very soon people are going to stay away from you. That person is just ranting every time, speaking negative every time. You have to think about, if this is a risk that could happen, how am I going to prevent that in the first place, right? And now over here, you'll be able to get much more specific details about, in general, what question I asked, how can I mitigate the risks for those areas. So if it is a functional risk, what could it be? If it is usability related, what could be specific risks that are there? And these are great ideas. In fact, this can be great ideas from a productization perspective as well. Is my requirements actually having all aspects, all dimensions covered based on what we are trying to build? And this is where, again, collaboration, again, Cam mentioned that beautifully, right? It's not just about moving from one place to the other. It's about collaboration. You collaborate, you help each other out in making sure all aspects are covered correctly. So you can keep on diving deeper into these aspects. I'll not go very specific in the risks area as well, but I just want to give you a glimpse of what all is possible. Now, let's say you have a risk that you want to know of, and maybe I don't have enough details about what are the legal and compliance issues that I should be aware of. Now, I come from India. I don't work in Australia. I don't know the compliance laws over here, the legal laws over here, what the requirements might be. How do I learn about that? Yes, one, I could Google, I could go through massive set of documentations, but I could also ask ChatGPT and give me something more meaningful that is more contextual to what type of product I'm testing. That can be a huge value add, especially when you move across domains, across different types of products, different industries. You will not know everything. Going through massive documentation is a pain, and many times that documentation is incorrect. That is the truth about documentation. It goes out of date. This can give you something more realistic to think about and take further decisions. Now over here, just from a compliance, legal and compliance issues perspective, look at the different set of things that it has come up for an e-commerce application. Now if you're building a product in the e-commerce space or not B2C, maybe a different type of e-commerce shopping product, this can give you a lot of different ideas what you need to think about. Okay. Is any of this new? Have you all tried these aspects already? Yeah? So let's move on to something that you might not have been able, not have done. Someone said they have also used to create test scripts, right? Is it code or is it what to test itself? Sorry? Code, okay. But how do you know what is to be tested? No, but it's based on requirements. You would come up with your test cases. You would design your test scenario. You come up with the test scenarios, your test cases, what is relevant, right? Now, again, over here, you can ask ChatGPT to give you for this type of product, what are the test scenarios that can be tested. Again, these questions are very generic, so the answers are not very valuable. But you ask a specific question, you will get a better answer. What this does mean is you have to learn to articulate better, ask more focused questions to get better relevant answers. That way, it's not like a static Google search where you'll get tons of blog posts and Stack Overflow articles or whatnot, and you have to filter out and try and find what is going to be helpful for you. Over here, you are going to get the information, but you have to learn to ask the right question. And you have to keep iterating over that. Based on the answers, you iterate over it. That's one great thing about ChatGPT. Other tools are also coming up. They'll probably become more powerful than ChatGPT in the future. No idea. Future will tell us what it is. But you have to be able, you can iterate over these answers and get better at it. Now, here are the critical scenarios for testing Amazon Australia. I'm not telling it whether it's a website or an app as well. It is still very generic. If you are focused on an app, iOS app for that matter, you should add that to your question because the scenarios could be very different based on that. Okay? So get specific about it. Now, scenarios is one thing, but what if you want to think about browser compatibility, getting more specific, what could be the top 10 cases to think about browser compatibility that you should test? And so far, this is not about automation at all, right? This is from your strategy and your design perspective, what you need to think about, what you need to do to get a quicker start in your testing activities itself. And it has given me 10 different scenarios in priority because I asked it for 10. It is giving me 10 of those test cases with respect to browser compatibility. What do I need to check based on that? So again, it can be very, very valuable how you can leverage this information. Now, since we are talking about AI, how can I use AI for cross-browser testing? I could ask that question as well. So we are using AI to get information about AI tools that can be used for this. And there are again different aspects that you will be able to use for AI. There's automated testing tools are there. There's test script generation, visual AI is there, machine learning for issue prediction, which is a very important aspect, right? We'll talk a little bit about that later as well. And so many other details. Test data, that is huge. How many of us think test data is a solved problem? None. It would be surprising if we think test data is easy. Okay? Unless it's my blog, which I have nothing really meaningful over there, and I don't need any test data. Okay? So again, you can use a ChatGPT, and I have not tried Bard recently, but Bard has also got very powerful in recent times. You have to play around with different tools and technologies to see how it can help you in your scope of work to make your life easier. One rule of thumb that I think of, right? How many of us get bored with your work? You're doing the same thing over and over again. Anyone who gets bored of work? Eventually, right? It's not first day, of course. But eventually there's a plateau you reach to say, I've learned new things. I don't know what new I can do over here. So one rule of thumb that I follow is whatever work I accomplish in 40 hours in a week, how can I achieve the same in 35 hours? I ask myself that question. And that brings creativity, that brings innovation, because I'm getting the same or better value in shorter time, which means I have to think of new creative ways how I can do that. And these tools can help you tremendously in getting to that state. Now, what that does is it gives you free time or additional time to pick up things that you would want to do, which you never had the time to do. So I think this can be another good advantage of using AI-powered tools. Okay. Now, this is also, I'm going to ask a very specific question because I work with Applitools. I'm going to ask a question related to Applitools. Okay. How can I use Applitools for doing cross-browser testing? It gives me a generic approach for that. For that matter, it doesn't have to be Applitools. Let's say you said for script generation, I want to automate a test for searching a product and adding to cart. Okay. I could also say, okay, how to automate a test for search and add product to cart. Very generic question again. It's going to give me a answer. It's assuming certain things. And this is, I think, how the tool itself has been built. Its first language of choice is Python. So because I did not specify what tool to use for automation, it assumed certain things. It assumed a programming language as well. But it gave a pretty interesting implementation. And if anyone has not tried, try it out. Copy this code, put it in your IDE, run it. It will run. That code will work in most cases. Why I say most cases? Why do you think it might not work?
Some prerequisites are specified.
Prerequisites, what do you mean?
The URL where you want to search, what kind of things you're trying to search.
Well, the context is about Amazon, right? So yeah, no, it is going to search based on Amazon. Sorry? Yes, you have to give the driver in the path over there. Yes. Yeah.
ChatGPT's data space from up to about a year ago, so it might have changed its UI since then.
The UI could have changed, yes, that is one. But still, in most cases, this is going to work. Okay. Aspects where this will definitely not work is because you're working on a live website. It does not load instantaneously. You might be on a slow Wi-Fi or something. The page loads, the way elements are going to load might be delayed as well. So this code does not really cater to that aspect about dealing with your application functionality, how quickly or slowly it's going to be available or not. So yes, all the other things that you mentioned is also true, but this is another dimension where the code potentially will not work. So can you use it directly? Yes and no. You take it, you tweak it, update the path, update the URL, add relevant weights over there. No thread.sleep, by the way. Okay. But add relevant weights to make the code work for you. And this can become great. But now I don't like Python, or rather I don't know Python. Show me the code using Selenium Java. Okay. And it does say talk about the prereqs as well over here. It gives me a high level approach. What is the scenario it's trying to automate? And here's the code for Selenium Java. Okay. Over here as well, we have got a problem of the path. But I know in the Java world, I can use WebDriver Manager to manage the browser drivers. Use WebDriver Manager. Okay. I'm getting lazier and lazier in giving the prompts, but it is able to understand the context. It is able to generate the code based on that. And here it is, WebDriver Manager is provided in the code snippet. So I don't even have to worry about the path anymore. Okay. Now, how many of us like design patterns in automation? Which is the most popular one that you use? Okay. Even in sleep, in dreams, you would be thinking about page object pattern, right? So implement, if I can type correctly, using page object model. And it is going to take the same code, convert it to page object model and use that. Okay. Now again, this code will work 99% cases, right? There'll be aspects of weights, delays. Some locators might have changed if it's not been able to pick it up. But this code will work up to 99%. Some small tweaks required, but you'll be able to use it. But do we build frameworks like this? Or automation frameworks like this? They are much more complex, right? We like complexity in life. That's what keeps our job stable as well, unfortunately. So we have got a frameworks. Can I use it in the framework directly? Of course not. Because you're evolving the test, evolving the test that you've automated. So you're going to take snippets from here, put it in the relevant places in your framework, and you'll still be able to get much more value than before. Okay? So it can give you a lot of value if you ask the right type of question. You ask a silly question, you'll get a silly answer. In this case, it just doesn't know you what you're really thinking about. So you ask the right question, and it will give you the answers based on that. Of course, there's a limitation of the data that it has. It does not have data based on the recent past couple of years. It is old data based on which it is trained on. So you have to be very careful about that. Important thing to remember when you're talking about code generation, it has learned how to write this code. How has it learned it? Looking at code that is available in the public repositories, right? Which means if I have a bunch of GitHub repos, it has probably learned from that as well. And now I'm worried because I have not written good code. I'm not saying about others, okay? I have not written good code in the past, at least in the past. So it has learned from bad coding as well. So it could potentially mean the code that is generated is also not of top quality or the good quality. So take it with that bunch of, or a pinch of skepticism, that this might not be the most optimal code that it has generated as well. Okay? So use it as a reference, don't use it as a solution. Similar to Stack Overflow or wherever you copied the code and put it in your automation or in your product code as well, right? I know a lot of developers who just take some snippets from Stack Overflow, put it in the product code and says, yes, the problem is solved. And then afterwards you figure out 10 other things that have happened. Okay? That's the reality of copying code from anywhere. Okay? Now, the Selenium Java implementation that we saw is one way. You could use different tools as well. There might be, if I say implement the above test using, give me another tool. Cypress. Okay? Just because someone spoke Cypress first. And it's giving me the same code in Cypress as well. Now, if you want to do an evaluation of tools, you don't have to actually spend days or weeks in learning a tool or technology to build a simple hello world type of example for a functional test. You could quickly generate the test, run it, see what does it really mean. That can be powerful. Okay? So we spoke about the strategy, we spoke about the design. One aspect that I did not speak about, which can be very interesting, and this is something when, again, when I was doing a demo related to this some time ago, I found very different responses. We spoke about test data. Okay? Let's say I want to place an order and I need an address, a shipping address, right? I don't know what address to give, so give me a shipping address, spelled correctly, Anand, for Sydney. I work out of Pune. I don't know any address in Sydney. So give me a shipping address in Sydney. Okay? Okay, this does not seem to be very valuable. It's a template. Give me a valid address. Let's see if it understands the meaning of valid. There we go. Now, I don't think this is valid, right? Is it? Give me a list of valid, do we call it pin code over here? Zip code? What do we call it? Postcode? Postcode for Sydney. Are these valid? Yeah? Okay. But I also do a negative testing, right? Give me invalid postcodes. Now I'm lazy. I just want the tool to give me everything. Okay? Now, here's the interesting part. It is telling me it does not, first of all, have access to a real-time database of postcodes. Then how did it give me the earlier ones? I don't know. Incorrect format. Incorrect could mean different things. So again, this is a good input, right? I have to be more specific. What do I mean by incorrect over here? But also it says that it is essential to consider specific rules, and invalid might depend on the context. Now this has learned tremendously in the last 6 months, at least that I have been using ChatGPT. The first time I asked for an invalid postcode, it says it cannot give any invalid data because it can be used in different ways, right? The next day when I was doing the live demo to say, okay, here's how you can invalid things are not possible, next it gave me a bunch of invalid data. I don't know, maybe I just asked the question too many times, I was persistent. So it is learning a lot. Now, the reason I'm highlighting this, test data is complex, it is challenging. Based on your context of test, sometimes you need to create data. There are a lot of tools and libraries that have been around for a long time to help generate data, but you can get meaningful contextual data using ChatGPT and other tools as well, which can be used for your automation. ChatGPT also has got API support. Maybe someone could try using the APIs to get real-time feed into your automation to use this data as well. That might be an interesting use case. Okay. From an automation perspective, we saw about the getting started. I want to automate the first test. I want to evolve that into using patterns or using WebDriver Manager or different tools or different programming languages. It is possible to get over there. But you will never be able to build a framework out of ChatGPT because the access is limited. And more importantly, you are working on an internal product which is yet to be gone live. In most cases. If you're working on automating a product that is already in production, maybe the strategy itself is incorrect what you're looking at. There's no value in automating after the fact. Well, there's limited, but not much. Okay? So you have to think about the overall strategy, how you're going to approach it, but then you can leverage tools a lot to get better in your programming side of it. Talking about programming, we've used ChatGPT to, a few people of us out here have used ChatGPT to generate code as well, right? How many of us try using the problem-solving sites, whether for recruitment, interviews, or just to learn programming? There are many such portals available. Over here, I'm just saying, here's a link. I'm not even saying what to do with it. It figures out what this link is about, and the link, if I go over here, oh, thank you. I need eyes behind me. Okay, sorry. So what I did is I just shared a link in ChatGPT and it figured out what this is about. It says, okay, this is a count and say problem on Lead Code, which is a programming site. And it is giving me the solution out of that automatically. Again, you could try different programming languages and all. So if you're learning programming and you're stuck on some solution, you're trying such portals, you're not able to find the answer, you could actually have this generate the code and use it as inputs to learn. Again, don't use it as a solution, use it as an input to learn, but that's just my suggestion for that. Okay? But I didn't even have to specify what I want it to do with this website. It is explaining it to me and it is giving me a solution out of it. Likewise, I've written open source code a lot, but many a times the code gets complex, not intentionally as well, right? I could just take a link to my GitHub, paste it over here and ask it to refactor. It is able to do that. I've used it. It works pretty well for that matter. It does all the refactoring and it works pretty well. So now that is very interesting side of it. Okay. Now coming to reporting, you can leverage ChatGPT for reports as well, but there are different better tools that you can use for reporting. This will help you give insights what type of reporting tools you can use or not, and what metrics you might want to consider. But I think metrics is something that is very contextual to the team, to the organization, what is important to measure and understand, and how to take decisions based on that. It can never be a generic set of metrics. So based on context, ask specific questions, and it can give you pretty good insights what you can do in that. Let's talk about challenges, how it can solve different, how AI can solve different challenges in automation. One is about the inefficient automation. We already spoke of that, right? You give it a blob of code or a link to your source code. It can do refactoring. It can suggest what things can be done better or not. The other aspect is linear scaling of execution. Your test you have implemented for one browser, you need to run in multiple browsers, right? So you're going to repeat the same execution everywhere. That's a typical cross-browser testing strategy. There's also an aspect of flaky test because of environment issues, data issues might be there. The different browsers are going to be slow as well. That's a problem. And there's also incorrect non-contextual test data that you have. So let's look at what that could mean, okay, in form of an example. So here I have a simple code. It's a Selenium Java based code which is going to test a particular website. The test itself is very simple. Search for a product, add it to cart and done. The test was very fast, the test completed as well. Okay. I didn't add thread.sleep over here. Cam gave me very less time to talk. Okay. But now I have to run the same test against a new build, for example, right? I'm running the same test. Again, the browser opens up. And in this case, the test actually failed. Over here, the reason is, for those who can read the reason, right? There is no such element, unable to locate element. What does that mean? Not able to find that element, right? What could be the reason of that? Sorry? Change in locator could be one. What else? Time to load could be another, right? Another element could have come on top. There could be multiple things that has happened over there, right? But now, how often do we face this problem, by the way? Most of the time. What do we do about it? Correct the locator and keep your fingers crossed. Okay. Now I'm running the test in a different fashion. I'm running it on the Applitools Execution Cloud. In this case, what is happening is, I see the test has started running here in the Applitools dashboard, but I ran just one test, right? Earlier I ran just one test. Over here, I'm seeing 8 different test results show up. There are different browsers and different devices over here. But the test execution, I triggered only for one. Okay. Now, there are a couple of things interesting that is happening here. One is about you're getting auto scaling. Whenever you are running the test, you can specify different browsers and devices. Automatically, validations will happen from that. The second thing is that, oh, the test passed for the new build. Okay. How did that pass? Because there was self-healing over here. AI-based self-healing. Applitools is able to figure out any locator that has changed. If there's an alternate locator, use that and proceed with the execution. And it is telling you over here the test passed, but the locator was changed. A different locator was used. Okay. And along with that, what you also get is your functional and visual validations happening at the same time. So just by changing the way of execution, you are able to get scale. You're getting stability in your tests because of self-healing. And because of AI, you are getting the visual validations as well, functional and visual validations, all at the same time. It took fractionally more than what it ran on local because, of course, it ran across the network, went to Applitools Cloud and came back from there. But you're able to get all of that using AI. The reason this is important is because coming back to the hype cycle, what I shared earlier, computer vision has become very powerful. It's a reality. And you can leverage that computer vision, the AI power of that in your functional automation with any existing automation that you have to get scale, get increased coverage, and reduce flakiness of your test execution as well. Okay? So using AI, you'll be able to get very strong validations, no false positives. It's very accurate. And you'll be able to reduce your failures in your test. These are not flakiness. Locator changes is not flakiness. But you'll be able to reduce that test failures because of locator changes with the execution cloud. With the execution cloud, you'll also get a notification that, yes, the locator has changed. Now, I've been a very big skeptic of self-healing. Why? Because what if the element itself has changed, right? is moved to a different location. The functionality might work, but that's not the expectation of my product. But when you tie it with visual AI, you get to know, yes, functionality is working, but there's some change in your user experience. That base is covered. That is very important. If it was without the visual aspect, I would not use self-healing, purely from that risk in my mind that what if the element itself has changed. So with self-healing and visual, that becomes a huge value add. Now the scaling aspect, how did that happen? All I need to do in my configuration is specify which browsers and devices are important to me. That's about it. No other change required. And that way I'll be able to scale and get the results automatically out of that. And when the validations happen, Applitools will render it in those browsers, devices, and the validations happen in the same test execution cycle. Okay? So that is about the AI side of it from a visual perspective, how you can get reliability in your test execution and scale as well. But flaky test is a different challenge now. Okay? Now, there could be n number of reasons for flakiness. We already spoke about slow loading of the test, environment issues, data changing. There could be so many other reasons, right? How many of us rerun the test automatically if it has failed? Okay, few. Please don't do that. It's a big risk to you, your product, because the test has failed for a particular reason. If you just rerun it and it passes, you have just passed the burden on to someone else who's going to find the problem and suffer the consequences. Do not rerun tests automatically. Any test that fails, understand why it has failed. Build instrumentation in your code, logging, whatever capability is required in your code to understand why it has failed and fix the problem at the root cause. Do you use a retry listener for that, for rerunning the test? If I had a magic wand, I don't know if Manoj is still here, he's I think a committer on TestNG as well. He commits to n number of things, crazy guy. But TestNG has this retry listener capability, and if I had the commit bits, I would delete that capability. Okay, that's how much I dislike the automatic rerun of scenarios. But anyway, it's important for you to know what are flaky tests first. It's easy to say 5 tests fail, I'll rerun and it passes. Next time 5 tests fail, I rerun and it passes. But is it the same test that failed the earlier time? You have no idea about that unless you manually inspect. So how do you understand which are your flaky tests? Report portal is a great tool to use. You push all your test results to report portal, it has got widgets, it will automatically start analyzing which tests are flaky, and it will give you a chart saying these tests are more flaky than the others. So you know where to start fixing the problem, where to focus on fixing the problem in a better way. Use that. Okay. ChatGPT in programming, we already covered some aspects of this, so I'm not going to repeat that, right? You can ask it to actually implement code, you can ask it to refactor, you can ask it to debug and reduce complexity. I've done that. This was a really crazy code my colleague had written. Okay, not me, my colleague had written. And I asked to refactor that and it became much more better. Now, how do I understand complexity? First of all, if I have to make change over there, it is complex, I don't understand what is going on. Second, again, IDEs can give you a lot of tools and plugins to tell you what the complexity is. So use that Sonar plugin, for example, to know what the complexity of your code is, and you know where to start. Okay. Debugging, again, we spoke about it. That is there. Here are some other interesting use cases. This is a pyramid diagram that I speak about. I know Anjali is here. She might have seen this diagram n number of times from me. Okay. But you are seeing it for the first time. You don't have no idea what that means. You could just take a link to that diagram. It's there on my blog. And you could ask ChatGPT to explain that. That's awesome. This is a typical framework diagram that I use for my automation framework. But if someone needs to understand what it is, give it a link to ChatGPT, ask them to explain it. Pretty accurate. Okay? It's very, very powerful. Likewise, I tried some other tools where I gave it a link to a YouTube video, asked it to transcribe. Not the best of it, but at least it picked up all my accents, everything, all the different behaviors that I have in my speech. It was able to figure all of that, and it did a pretty decent job. Now I have to polish through all of that. Last thing, Cam, I'll just take 1 more minute over here, is GitHub Copilot. And that is amazing. I have this one test where it is add to cart. What if I want a different test and it is asking me, okay, is this the test you want to implement? I didn't do anything. GitHub Copilot is telling description filter by color. Is that what you want? I said, okay, fine. And it is giving me, okay, here's a filter by color test. Oh, I do that every time. Sorry about that. Cam, sorry, one more minute. Okay. So, GitHub Copilot is automatically asking me, is this the test that you want to implement? And then it is going to implement the test as well for me automatically. Will this work? Probably not. Locators might be different or something. But I get so much head start in my implementation, I don't have to worry about doing everything. How many of us focus on the syntax of your programming language? Or which methods could be used for what? I've stopped looking at that ages ago. The IDE is powerful. It is going to tell me what is to be done. Why do I need to worry about it? As long as the concept is clear in my mind, that is good enough. I know what to implement. I'll figure out a way how to do that. Okay? So, to wrap up, there are again many different things. GitHub Copilot is there, JetBrains Aqua is there. Though I was not very impressed with JetBrains Aqua, but that's fine. Think about the pitfalls. Data privacy is a big thing. Be wary of that. To summarize, there are many tools that are solving very interesting challenges. You have to explore and understand what all is there to make the best out of it. One skill definitely you need to learn is how to ask the right question, a very precise question to get a good answer. Tools have limitations. Each and every tool has limitations. You have to understand the strengths and the limitations and choose wisely. The human mind and brain is still very essential. You have to use that to get better. Okay? So AI in automation is a reality. It is not just a hype anymore. You can leverage the technology to get your automation much more better, faster, optimal. And you have to step up, else you will get left behind. You will end up doing the same thing that is manually done, which is going to take a long time, and others are going to move much more faster than you. Manually repeated work should definitely be avoided, whether it's creating a strategy document or something. You can leverage tools to get faster and better at it. The key thing is the automation cocktail. For those who don't drink, it's a mocktail. Or rather, don't drink alcohol, it's a mocktail. Okay? It is your taste, your recipe in your context. You have to figure out what is the right mix for you. Build, buy, reuse is the way to go ahead. You cannot just be rebuilding, reinventing the wheel. Or you cannot just purchase a tool and think that is going to solve all the problem. You have to use a combination to get the best value. What this means is truly being agile. You have to evolve, iterate, communicate, and collaborate. Okay? Last slide. I hope this delivers the punch. It's not just about AI. Without human intelligence, AI is going to be nothing. And together is what is going to give you and your team super intelligence. Okay? I hope this gave you different insights, what you could leverage tools and how you can actually power up your automation. Thank you very much. Okay.